Hello, my name's Steve Regan, and I'm going to talk about a particularly creative week and a half that I've had while I've been off sick, basically. Well, I'm on Easter holiday being a teacher, computer science teacher, but it's not been a very good one. I've had shingles. I had it about 7 years ago, and it lasted 3 or 4 weeks and seems to be following the same pattern. So what it's left me with is practically 1.5 weeks without any sleep. So what do you do in the extra hours that you can't sleep? Well, what I've been doing is having a go at a few projects. It started off with me watching YouTube videos, and I was watching some of the old retro games, and it got me thinking that I used to write for a magazine called PC Plus back in the day when in the 80s when the PCs first came out. I did do a lot of programming with the Z81 and the ZX Spectrum, but I migrated to good old Alan Sugar's Amstrad PC 1512. And basically, I wrote a few things in Basic and other computer languages when I did that, and I got on their cover desk. Back then in the 80s, I used to get £75 every time I featured either in the magazine, and one of them was quite surprising. I got on the Christmas edition, and it was back in the days of DOS, so it was a very much text-driven game. But I wrote a sort of what was called a Pelmanism, that is a sort of matching pairs game. And later on, I wrote in Basic 2, which was on the first sort of Windows type systems. It was called GEM. It looked like, a bit like the first Apple Macs operating system. And I wrote a Basic 2 program with a matching pairs card game. So I decided the first thing I was going to do was recreate that. So I used Visual Studios. Let me open up this. I used Visual Studios and wrote in C Sharp. Originally, I wrote it in Basic 2, so there's the code for it. And I wanted to give it a retro feel. So here is, I'll just click on this, and this is the game that I produced. So I put just a card table there, and you can select either easy, which gives you when you click play, it gives you a set of cards like that, or you can go for a moderate game, which again gives you more cards, and obviously you've got the pattern now, and you go for a hard game, which gives you more. Yeah. So I'll just go in and play an easy game. I'm not going to go through this game, but basically it's a simple premise. Originally, I did it with ASCII code by redefining text on the screen and drawing it into patterns. So I had to draw things like utilities and saucepans and things like that people match. But I did it on Basic 2. I did it in cards like this one. So you play a game. So it's simple premise. You pick two cards, random. This is totally random. I don't even know what these are going to be. Obviously, there's no match. You've got to remember what cards are where. Basically, I've got to find one that I can match here. I'm completely useless. And under pressure here. I've got a clue what I'm doing. I know there was a king somewhere. I know there was a king. There's a 2 there. Oh, dear. I'm going to make a complete idiot of myself. We've got a match the pair there. So what we do is go like that, and they disappear. And the whole point is you carry on with this game until you match everything. And there's people screaming at the screen now going, I know where that one is. I haven't got a clue. Suddenly he comes alive, basically. I think that was over there, wasn't it? Oh, yeah, he's getting the hang of it now. Don't remember what that one was. That. So we just go through this, and the idea is you could try the difficult ones quite hard, really. The idea is that you try and you try and beat your time. Your time's up here. It's in seconds, and you try and beat your time when you end it. And I'm quite impressed that I've actually ended it. in about a minute and a half, and then you can quit or play again. Just pick a new set of cards and have a go at it again. So that was the first thing I did, and I think I knocked that card game out in about maybe 3 hours, 3 4 hours. Just most of it, most of the game was developed in a couple of hours, and then you start playing around with it to make it look retro and things like that. So that was the first one I did. But also, I decided to get a bit serious the next night while I was up. I wanted to do a pathfinding algorithm. At the moment, with my computer science students, I'm doing A-star algorithms and that. So I decided just to make a very blocky game. This was not impressive at all graphically, but what you had to do is you sort of, there's a blue block in one corner of the screen. It randomly generates obstacles. They're just blocks all over the screen. And then you choose which direction that it has to predominantly go in. So it either goes to the north, northeast, east, southeast, south, and all the way around the points of the compass, and it starts off in one corner and it has to make its way to the other. Now you may think, well, that's easy, you just make it go that way, but this thing doesn't know where it's going. It knows where it's got to get to, but it doesn't know what the route it has to do. So it has to use what's called heuristics. That's what you do if you're going walking around, say, London, and you're not familiar with it, but you can see like the post office tower in the distance. You could find yourself wandering around the streets, going down alleys, but you can still see over the rooftops the actual target you're going for, and that is basically a sort of rule of thumb. You keep trying even if you have to go backtrack or left or right, you're always trying to make your way to it. It's not the most efficient way of getting round, but it's the basis if you get it right for Google Maps and how it works its routes out. So I wanted to do a little graphical. It's the code that matters on this one rather than the graphical representation. So I'll show you this one then. It's got a fairly simple interface. That happens to be the wrong one. That was a developed one. So let's see if I can find A-star example. Yeah, I'll run it from here. So this one is Visual Studios. Basically, the code the code is actually in here. For this game, that's a short amount of code, and then you've got a node, which is the actual. It has to make its way from point to point. That's a little convoluted there. So basically, I'll start it up and be prepared to be unimpressed by the graphics. Okay, so it's fairly basic screen here. It's not been developed any further. I was more interested in the code. So I'm going to start it off from this corner here and go up to the northeast corner. And basically, you can say whether one or two objects go there. We just try one. So basically, you can see the little blue square there now. It's working out a route and it goes back to us. It's trying to find its way round. It's got no memory of where it's going. It's just it's got a short memory. So if it goes back, it knows it's been there before. So it'll only try it a number of times. If it keeps going to the square, so it knows where it's come from and the distance it's come from, and it knows how far away the target is. Now, remember, it is blind, so it seems to be wandering around, and it's found its destination there. So if I cut that down and start it again, I suppose it's the root of a game. You could have sort of a racing game here. I'll just put 2 on there. You can have more than that, and I'll just in this example, I'll go south. Let's go. Let's go south, and wait for it to generate a map. There you go, and you've got two objects starting off at different locations, and they're trying to work their way round. I've set them as blue because, again, it's not a piece of software. They can go diagonally. That one's sort of stuck there on the left. Oh, it's got out of it. Now it's got back in again. And you can see now that they're just trying to find their way down to it, and if they make progress, that's fine. This one's quite fiendish actually, because this one's stuck in here, so they can't see it. Remember, they're not eyes like we are. They're just feeling their way around and looking. They know generally where they should be going. They're looking for a route to it, and they'll make their way across there as they explore and find out that it's not working. They seem to be fixated on that corner at the moment. But it's just a search algorithm, basically. So that was fairly creative in some terms. It was that one was hard to do because it's not easy to get some sort of intelligent logic in that. And what I've got to try and do in the future is put a bit of a memory factor in there so that the program can learn, or that the objects can learn which way they need to go, basically, and know that some routes are unfruitful. But at the moment, that's like blundering around in the dark. But they will get there in the end. It's not exploring the whole. The point of that is that the old algorithm, which is called Dijkstra, would have to Dijkstra algorithm would mean you'd have to go to every point on the board and find out how far that was away from the route, and then it would calculate, once you visited every place on the board, it would then calculate the best route. Yeah, but this one doesn't have to go to every square on the board. Okay, so the next one was I decided to go back to my retro days when I used to program with the Spectrum, and decided to resurrect a game called Defender. This one is not written in using any 3D graphics engine. Again, it was more of a retro feel, and I wrote a program. Now, this one was a number of nights because it was a bit more convoluted, because it involves threading sound. That means that you've got explosions and gunfire and things like that. You've got enemy objects, which are all coded. You've got missiles, so you can fire volleys of shots. You've got the actual Defender itself. I haven't quite finished this yet, but I'm using this one as a sort of demonstration on programming techniques, object-oriented programming techniques, and also some of the collisions and things like that. So it's a basic game technique. It's not meant to be a polished game. It's meant to be a teaching tool, this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into its folder here. A lot of the time is sourcing and drawing graphics for these. I went really retro style and decided to grab some graphic drawing as well. So I do some painting skills. Right, so anyway, so I'm just going to find the executable file here. That's not there. Oh, there we are. So I'm going to run it here. Here we go. This is my Defender, and it's a classic game where you've got, yeah, here they come. Oh, I've just got to go. I'm using the old WSDA stuff there. Now, every time Defender goes off the screen, if they escape, you can see there it comes up, and then you can fire at them. You could go in either direction. I can write games, but I'm really bad at playing them. So I'm going to go up there, turn around, and basically some of the effects here, you can hear it firing. So basically, it fires a volley. You can fire one shot, or I'll just fire one. Woo! There you go. Good shot there. And the idea is to defend your territory, and they come in randomly from different directions. So you can move your ship. It's a sort of hole. I've got to turn around. Get that one. So it keeps track of that. You can see your lives are at the top there. So if I die spectacularly, nice there. I haven't put the explosive sound on that, but you can hear the explosion when I shoot these. So let's drop down there and see. I got that one just as he went off screen. Oh, didn't get that one though. So, that's a Defender game. What are we going to do with this? Well, there's lots of techniques about movement, animation, graphics, basically collisions, sound effects. There's a lot of multitasking going on here. So basically, each one of those enemies are a program in their own right, and I could make them do anything I wanted. I can send them commands, and you can randomly do that. So they're all objects in their own right, basically. I'm doing fairly well at this. Now, how could what I want students to do in this is to develop it further. So basically, this is the basics, the template that I'm going to give them. They don't have to use the same graphics as me, badly drawn chips and things like that. But they could say, put some point in there. I think I should have blown up there. Brilliant. So I've been destroyed. And I managed to kill 12 enemy and only 7 escaped alive, basically. So I class that as I got 3 losses myself. So I class that as a win, not a stunning win. Okay, so that is Defender. Well, that's it. So basically, I don't know what I'm doing. I've been doing some electronic projects as well. Rest of the nights, I've been wiring up and drawing designs to make my own retro computer. In the end of the day, some of these games are being developed, so that I'm going to produce a mid 80s or maybe early 80s PC. Oh, sorry, not PC, as they were called then. Sort of retro computer a la sort of Z81 or a bit lower than the Spectrum. And I'm going to do some programming for it and produce some games. I might produce them so you don't have to use a cassette tape. They'll all just be a list of menu of games in it and you play it. I haven't decided what screens it's going to run on. It's probably going to be on a small LCD screen in a box, basically. I'm going to make it look very retro anyway. That's going to take me months to build, but I've ordered the processor. I've got to do some experiments on it. I really don't know. I know all the theory because I teach it, but I've really never built one. So I've been playing around with electronics a bit, and I've made some components work, as you've seen on previous videos, and I've just got to finish one last video for that. So that's it then. So that's what you do when you've got singles and you're ill and you're like me. You just create and do things instead of just staying awake in pain. Thank you. That's it.